Russia's winning. They are winning decisively across the entire battlefront. Now, if you get your information from The Economist, the Financial Times, the New York Times, the Washington Post, you are reading undiluted propaganda. They have a narrative about the war's a stalemate because it hasn't moved very much. It's not a stalemate. You have to understand the Russian way of war. Like right now, their main objective is a city called Pokrovsk. Now, Pokrovsk it's a decent sized city, but it's a logistics hub. The highways, the railroads, et cetera, that run through it it's highly networked, and it's the way that Ukraine supplies their troops along the entire front. You run it to Pokrovsk, and then you move it to someplace else. You take that, you basically it's like ripping the heart out of the Ukrainian effort as difficult as it is. They're suffering in a lot of other ways. Okay, but how does Russia do it? They've spent the past year taking every village and town completely around it. They've surrounded it. So then when they surround it, and they did this in Bakhmut, they did this in Avdiivka, they've done it in Chasiv Yar, which just fell to the Russians in recent days, even though that battle's been going on for a year. So by doing that, then when they go in for the kill, there's no way out. The Ukrainian troops can't escape. They cannot resupply. And basically Russia says, surrender or die. We'll give you the ability to surrender, and you'll go to a prison camp, a prisoner of war camp in Russia, but that's a choice. But if you want to fight, you're fighting to the death, and they do. This is what happens to the Kursk. When Zelensky invaded Kursk, which is part of the Russian Federation, that's not Ukrainian territory. That took about a year, but the Russians killed them to the last man. They couldn't get out. And that's going to happen to Pokrovsk. So you say, okay, if you're the New York Times, well, nothing moved in a year. Well, actually, something moved. They surrounded it. Now they're going in for the kill. This is where the Western, Financial Times type propaganda is basically lying to audiences and around the world, really, but UK and US in particular.
But
So
is it true that Putin can't continue this forever? I know the economy is growing, but will it get to a point where it isn't sustainable anymore?
it's totally sustainable. And
Okay.
let's turn to that. Really good question, Brian. So by the way, I had a conversation with Peter Navarro. He's the trade and manufacturing czar in the White House.
Yeah, we've had
Uh,
him on the show. Yeah.
yeah. Peter's a great guy. So not long ago, and I he's like a conversation with him is like an oral exam and a PhD oral exam. I mean, it's really tough, and he asks really hard questions, which is fine. But he's got the professorial aspect of it, but a really good guy. But I kind of hit him with something he hadn't thought of, and he said, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "You want to end this war? Stop the sanctions, flood the market with oil, get the price down to $30, and Putin will stop the war."
Mm.
That's how Peter said, "Yeah, you're right." Because what are we doing? We're putting on more sanctions. We're raising the price of oil. We're putting more money in Putin's pocket. So to answer your question, Brian, he can finance the war indefinitely at these high oil prices. 60, yeah, okay, 65. It's been up to 90 not that long ago, but 65, 70 or higher, and I think it will go higher for the reasons we're discussing, finances the war, and Putin can continue it indefinitely. If you want to, this is where the geopolitical eggheads don't understand markets, right? If Putin's depending on oil, high-priced oil revenue to finance the war, the way to stop.
Investment Club. Today, I consider it the best investment that I've ever made. We get 4 projects presented a week by their associated CEOs. Personally, I'm completely blown away by the quality of these projects, and I know of nowhere else where I would be given this same opportunity. Each week that passes, I feel more appreciative of the fact that I'm a member of this group. The vibe was just tremendous. Everybody's on the same wavelength. We just clicked. Everybody listened to each other, enjoyed their company. It was just magical, magical. Take action. Don't take my word for it. Due diligence you need to do. And I really hope that someday down the road I see you in the club. It far exceeded expectations, without question.
Stop the war is to get the price of oil down to 30, $40. Well, how do you do that? Not with sanctions. Take the sanctions, let Russia pump as much, let Saudi Arabia pump as much. US open up the federal lands, open up the Gulf of America, offshore drilling, Alaska, flood the market with oil, get the price down to 30, $40, and then Russia will cave, but not before. So now let's just take that thread a step further. So I talked about, okay, what's Trump going to do on August 8th? What's he going to do when this ultimatum runs out? Well, he could do nothing, in which case he's completely lost credibility. He's embarrassed himself and he's weakened the United States. They won't do that, but that's kind of one choice. What is he going to do? Well, one thing he could do is increase arms shipments, okay, to Ukraine, because U.S. has been dialing those down. All right, let's talk about that. This has been another one of these narratives, these mainstream media narratives that's false, by the way, since the beginning of the war. The wonder weapons. Okay, so what do? We sent HIMARS precision-guided artillery to Ukraine. What it took about a month or less for the Russians to hack the GPS system, so they go off course. They fall into cornfields, right? I mean, you can't if the precision guided artillery is guided by GPS, and you can hack the GPS. Those missiles are harmless because they don't go anywhere. Okay, so forget the HIMARS. Patriot anti-missile batteries, by the way, they cost $1 billion a piece. $1 billion, and there aren't that many of them in the world, but we gave them 7 or 8. The Russians systematically destroyed every one of them, $7 billion down the drain. How did they do that? What about the Patriot? What about the Golden Dome and the Iron Dome and the Patriot anti-missile system? They can't hit hypersonic missiles. They can hit cruise missiles. Cruise missiles go about 500, 600 miles an hour. These hypersonic missiles, some of them go 10,000 miles per hour, and the Patriots can't hit them. So what good are your Patriot missile and a Patriot anti-missile defense batteries doing if hypersonic missiles can blow them up, which they are? So send them a few more, waste a couple more $1 billion. By the way, we're stripping our own arsenals of those weapons. And the U.S., we're supposed to have them here in the U.S. to protect, critical infrastructure. We want to give, to the extent we have any, we want to give them to Israel to protect against Iran. And so the latest version was Trump told Germany and the Netherlands, and I think, mainly Germany and the Netherlands, you got to send yours to Ukraine. And they're like, hey, we only got 3 left. Now you're sending one to Ukraine. Yes, fine, send them 2 or 3 more. The Russians will blow them up, a couple more billion down the drain. They don't work. Okay. The British Challenger tank, the German Leopard 2 tank, the U.S. Abrams tank, all this armor. Zelensky said, tanks. We sent it to them. By the way, the UK has pretty much stripped their arsenals of what the few Challengers they had left. Same thing with Germany and the Leopard. Same thing with the US and the Abrams. They were all left burning on the battlefield. They're too heavy for Ukrainian soil. They're not well suited, and they were invented before the creation of the drone. So using drones and precision-guided missiles, etc., Bradley fighting vehicles burning on the battlefield, tanks burning on the battlefield. They did nothing. What about the F-16s? Remember, Biden spent 2 years. Are we going to send them F-16s or not? Well, we finally did. Why don't you hear about them? Because they're getting shot down by the Russians. I mean, but with the A300s or the A400s, sorry, the S400s, that's the Russian surface-to-air anti-missile system. So we've sent them all the wonder weapons, and they don't work. In fact, the implications of that are even scarier, which is, NATO sent them all their weapons. They've been blown up and destroyed in the battlefield in Ukraine. They don't work. They haven't stopped the Russians. What's stopping the Russians from going to the English Channel? Nothing. I mean, they're not going to. It's not my forecast. I'm just saying that NATO is actually far from turning the tide in Ukraine. They've proved how impotent they are against the latest Russian weaponry and technology, hypersonic missiles, digital warfare, drones, etc. And who's joined in? Iran and North Korea. We're making them stronger. So every single thing about this has been disastrous for the West, U.S., but obviously NATO and UK and France also. So just to round out this part of the discussion, why will sending more weapons to Ukraine make a difference? The answer is it won't.
Okay.
So it's the same failure. So what's left? Well, economic sanctions. Okay, 100 sanctions haven't worked. Why not try 101? But here's where I said earlier that it's all connected, like on a global basis. So now what Trump wants to do are called secondary sanctions. So we've sanctioned, but you can't sanction Russia anymore. We've sanctioned everything. They can't export. They can't get high technology. Their oil's illegal, et cetera, et cetera. A secondary sanction is when you find another country that's doing business with Russia, and you say, "Hey, if you do business with Russia, we're going to sanction you." Well, who's the you? China and India, because China and India are buying Russian oil, paying dollars, and that is financing the war effort, propping up the Russian economy. No question about it. So, but we haven't been able to stop Russia's exports. So we're saying to China and China and India, You stop buying Russian oil, we're going to sanction you. Okay. What's going on right now? The US is in bilateral trade talks with India, and we're in bilateral trade talks with China. Okay, if you're India and China, you're sitting there saying, how can I do a deal with the US? You may be a couple of days away from throwing 200% tariffs on me because I'm buying Russian oil. Why are we quibbling over 50% or 20% tariffs? Why should I do anything with you when I don't know what's coming on Friday?
Hmm.
Well, the answer is they won't. So the failure of the Indian and Chinese trade talks so far is not because they don't want to talk or they don't know how to make a deal. Of course they do. It's because they're in the crosshairs of secondary sanctions because they get oil from Russia. And how on earth could you agree to any deal if you don't know that Trump's going to smack you with 200% tariffs the next day? It would be
Okay.
ridiculous to make a deal. So this, again, sorry to go on, Brian, but I'm trying to show how from Ukraine to Russian oil exports, imports by China and India, which those countries need to run their economies, to primary sanctions that have failed, military aid that has failed, now to secondary sanctions, which will also fail, but they'll fail in a more spectacular way because they're going to blow up normal bilateral trade talks. I mean, this whole thing is a mess. They have not, by the way, I tell this to people in the Trump administration. I get a hearing, but it doesn't seem to change the analysis.
Hey, I know investing in crypto is scary. It takes a real leap of faith because there are so many scams, rug pulls, and bad actors out there. It's a dangerous business, which is why 95% of people lose all their money. Well, that's why I created the London Real Investment Club, so you can access the hottest deals on the planet and use the crypto bull market to create the generational wealth that you deserve. Join my team of over 100 people from around the world that are making millions of dollars behind the scenes investing in blockchain, AI, Web3 games, DeFi, Bitcoin, and more. Don't miss out. Click the link below to book a call with one of my team now. But hurry, this bull market will end soon.
I know investing in crypto can be scary. That's why you gotta join the investment club. Pull the trigger. Let's do this.